Good evening, Pinewood residents. As always, it has been my practice from day one to give regular community updates, regular community interactions. For me, it's important to be accessible. I may not be able to be at all places at any particular time, but I do make concerted effort to be accessible. I am actually very proud to be the Member of Parliament for Pinewood, and I'm proud to be fighting for a strong and resilient people. I want to thank you for this opportunity, and I hope the fruits of my representation and your support inures to the benefit of every resident in the community. First, I want to acknowledge that for a very long time, the community has been plagued by a number of issues. Chief among those issues has been the chronic flooding that has been plaguing the residents of Pinewood for decades. Second of which, that may not impact everyone, has been the issues related to the land possession and by Arawak homes and the struggle of those homeowners who had been plagued and treated, in my opinion, almost criminally, who did not seek to steal land, who followed all the processes yet found themselves in grave distress. These are not all the issues, but these are predominant battle issues on my behalf. And from day one, you would find that I would have been engaging on behalf of the community to see that some resolution is brought. I'll try to limit that to these two major points, and as usual, we'll speak to the others. Notwithstanding the impact of COVID-19 and all its limitations on employment, the health risks associated, the social and economic setbacks that has occurred not only in Pinewood but throughout the Bahamas and indeed throughout the world, Pinewood is also unique because for decades we've been plagued with the flooding, and that flood also comes along with its own set of health risks, molds in houses. I've been there, I've seen it. The social and economic and emotional setback. Flooding in and of itself, like winter, spring, summer, and fall, has its own season in Pinewood. And I sympathize and join the fight with the residents to get our just due in resolving this issue. Let us not forget that even during the time of Dorian, though Pinewood had not been hit as hard as our fellow family islands in Grand Bahama and Abaco, whom we support greatly, yet we ourselves had residents that was greatly impacted during Dorian, losing cars and furnishing. And that setback was then compounded by the advent of the COVID-19 virus that almost laid waste the Bahamian economy. It's amazing how within little over a year, our nation would have lost $3.5 billion. $3.5 billion. But I'm compelled to say, through my belief, that God is still good. Personally, though, as it relates to Dorian, I stand here and I'm very proud of the residents of Pinewood who would have taken in family and friends, all victims of Dorian, who shared the little that they had for as long as they could. And I would like to say this, my God is writing, and He will reward you in due season. Nothing reflects the character of a person but where he stands in difficult times. And I've seen the homes, and I know the persons who had opened up their doors and carried on their shoulders their loved ones who have been stricken during Hurricane Dorian. And I must say again, I am so proud. In the face of all of this and more, it is up to us as a community to have heart, the courage, the faith, to continue to persevere through life's many challenges and to work together for a better community. Pinewood must always stand in unison. The purpose of this briefing is to communicate to you and update you clearly on some of the major issues as I would have forestated. For the first time in a long time, and indeed I say it's an answered prayer to those who have been praying over the decades, that we now have major investment in the remediation of this flood plague within the Pinewood community. Some may look at it and only see the time that it was announced and not acknowledge the fight and the plight it took to get us here. First of all, we give God praise and we acknowledge the prayers that He has answered for many persons. I want to say to you my position on this before I explain briefly a timeline. I do believe that there is a reason for the residents to celebrate, because this marks the first major commitment of its kind directly related to the remediation of the flooding issue in Pinewood. But me as a representative, I understand that the end of a matter is better than its beginning. And so permit me, if I keep my game face on and refuse to come down off the wall, because I understand that $2 million that will be directly injected into Pinewood with the now approved project by the Ministry of Public Works, it will not be sufficient to totally remediate the matter. But it will signal a major investment into a pilot project that, once it proves effective in the zone that we place it in Pinewood, will now be rolled out throughout Pinewood. And then my job and my fight continues to ensure that once this project is in the ground and it shows that it could handle the water as projected by the engineers of the Ministry of Public Works, to ensure that year in and year out, that the budget of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas has in it allocation for the step-by-step onward and relenting pursuit to bringing about the level of satisfaction that the residents of Pinewood deserve. When we first came into office, and the record will clearly show, you elected me on May 10th, 2017. The budget of Bahamas is normally began its compilation, the ministries began the compilation of the budget of Bahamas normally in March. So that by May, the budget is substantively completed. So by the time the government, our current government, this F&M government, the government that I am a part of, would have had time, we would have been less than 2 weeks away from the submission of the budget. So within the first year, as a timeline, that budget under the former administration had nothing in it to address the Pinewood community. So that was year one. And I say this simply just for you to understand. Yet from day one, I made it very, very clear the position of Pinewood on the whole, in the halls of Parliament, and stood strong behind that. I may not have said much to you publicly because I respect your emotions. And you're tired of political games, and I'm not interested in political games. So the fight was behind the scene. In year two, as you well know, we had major works done in Pinewood, major road works done in Pinewood. And according to residents, it may have been the first time in 20 years they've had such major road works done within the Pinewood community. And even those were still to be expanded, as road works are supposed to be done on the main Pinewood Drive as well and a few other streets. And that was year two. In year three, $1 million was allocated. And this has been after constant pursuit. And you would see in videos many times when I go to government agencies on behalf of you, I post videos of the same, that Public Works had come up with an idea that they feel would be effective for flooding in Pinewood and throughout the other areas of New Providence. And $1 million was allotted to begin a pilot program to test those systems throughout New Providence in select areas. So here we are coming into year 4. And we got hit in year 3 with Dorian, and we got compounded with COVID. In year 4, throughout my persistence and inquiry, I began to sense that, rightly so, that the pilot project was not going to happen in Pinewood. As obviously, you know, your member of parliament is a backbencher. And the pilot project seemed to have been allotted in other areas. I didn't say anything publicly because I don't grandstand and I don't play political games with you as my constituents. That was my private fight as your representative. I tried as much as I can. But as you well know, on December the 8th, and I'm a man who follows my conscience, there is no way that I can stand as a representative and ignore the fact of the greatest need of my constituents. And it was made clear for many reasons that I would not use the power, the vote, and the authority that Pinewood has given me to stand for another budget to pass in this country that neglects the demands and the need of Pinewood. And I say this again, regardless of what administration. For over 20 years you have been asking. Over 20 years you have been pleading. Over 20 years people have been seeing and knowing what you have been going through. And there was no way, now or in the future, I could stand with your name on my back and not represent the reality. I am happy to say, however, that at the end of the 4th year and in that first budget thereafter, you now know that there are funds that have been allotted. I've already asked the Minister of Public Works that at his earliest convenience after the budget debate to make direct representations to you as residents. I know you have been once bitten and very, very shy, and I don't doubt your skepticism. Actually, I engage it. I represent it. And the Ministry of Public Works has agreed, and they will make representation to you. I have asked for it to be done via Zoom to explain to you in depth, directly from the horse's mouth, what will be done in this initial stage of this this flood remediation program. I am happy that God has allowed us in this time to at least begin to get firm commitment to addressing the flooding needs in the constituents of Pinewood. As to the second matter that I spoke about, is called the Pinewood Project. You would have seen from day one, I would have brought the Attorney General into Pinewood to meet with the residents of the Nassau Village Seabreeze Homeowners Association, all of those, not just in Pinewood, but across the borders of Pinewood, who would have been impacted by having their land transferred from them via the Privy Council in law to our homes. It was really unfortunate. And I was pleased to announce at the beginning of the year and early in the year that the government of the Bahamas had continued to pay, notwithstanding the fiscal austerity and the budgetary issues we've had, and would have paid millions of dollars to our home and have satisfied that bill. We are now in the last leg of that process. And after the budget debate, I will continue my press again to get us over the final hurdle for the government to make the final decision after they would have completed the proper land assessment to make the residents whole again, to make you whole again. The delay, to the best of my knowledge, is due mainly because of the overlaying of lands and properties and to ensure that your boundaries are proper and secure. And we all know lands are a very technical matter. But I'm proud of my government that they stood firm, they paid off the debt, and now those persons are on the last mile of the way. I give God thanks that he will have a humble forecastle boy to come in the midst of Pinewood and to be present to see his deliverance to these wonderful people in the constituency of Pinewood. But I promise you though, I do believe that the end of a matter is better than its beginning. And I will ensure that this will be done until the last nail is knocked, until I can look in each one of your eyes and I can see the mark of approval that you're satisfied that sufficient work has been done. I will not come down from this wall. I thank you for your support. I thank you for your commitment. I thank you for your fellowship. May God bless Pinewood.